Okay, so starting off the Big East, I will preview the team that I have finishing number one in the conference, and that would be Jay Wright and the Villanova Wildcats. And when you look at Villanova, they are some people's preseason number one. They are some people's Big East champion, and they are my Big East champion. And I think when you look at Villanova, some people have them as the preseason number one, but they should be, I would say, about in the top five for everyone. We know that this is going to be Jay Wright's 19th season as the head coach of Villanova. We know this is a guy that has won 2 national championships throughout his career, and this is a guy that runs a great offense and really has been one of probably the best coach in college basketball since the inception of the new Big East in 2014. Jay Wright has done an unbelievable job with this Villanova program, just turning it around and really turning Villanova into the powerhouse of the new Big East. They have shared or won outright 6 of the conference's 7 regular season titles since the league's inception. And Villanova, listen to this stat. Villanova has earned either a 1 or 2 seed in the NCAA tournament 5 of those 7 years. That is just super impressive. And when you look at Villanova's team this year, they lose Sadiq Bey to the NBA after a breakout season last year, but Brian Antoine does return. They also do bring in Caleb Daniels, a transfer from Tulane, who should have a big-time impact. And I think right now, when you look at Villanova, you're going to see an 8 to 9 man rotation with everything. You're going to have Jeremiah Robinson Earl coming back. He's super versatile. Jermaine Samuels could really play. He's experienced. Colin Gillespie, Justin Moore, Cole Swider, Demir Cosby Roundtree, Brandon Slater. These are all guys that have played together for Jay Wright on Villanova. So I think that will really help with the team's chemistry. Many did assume last year that Colin Gillespie, who was going to be the starting point guard, didn't really have what it took to be the next great Villanova point guard. But to be honest, last year, he did prove a lot of people wrong. He exploded on his way to earning second-team All-Big East honors. He took on a higher usage role in the offense and took over really the primary ball handling duties after splitting it with Phil Booth during his sophomore year. And what makes Colin Gillespie so good, I think, is his ability to get through the defense and get to the rim, and he could keep his head up while handling the ball. He pounds the rock, he forces the defense to make quick decisions, and he usually takes good shots, and he could really shoot. The thing about him is that, if you remember, he was actually a freshman on the Villanova team that won the national championship a couple of years ago with Mikal Bridges, Dante DiVincenzo, and the amount Colin Gillespie has improved since then has been absolutely phenomenal. The other kid in the Villanova backcourt is going to be Justin Moore, and I think Justin Moore could be an absolute star. This is a kid that is a former top 50 recruit. He could really shoot from 3. He shot 39.6% from the field from 3 last year, but he has a very balanced game. It's not only limited to catch and shoot. He's more than capable at scoring off the bounce and getting into the paint, and I think that versatility makes him a perfect pairing with Colin Gillespie in that Villanova backcourt, especially when you consider the type of offense Jay Wright likes to run with that quick, fundamental shooting offense. Cole Swider and Brandon Slater are 2 guys I'm really looking at for this Villanova team. These are 2 guys that are really, I think, finally going to get their chance to play and will probably play, I would say, the most minutes in their Villanova career. And there is a lot to like on this Villanova team, even though they did lose their best player in Sadiq Bey to the NBA. And the thing about Villanova is this. They're always play with very good chemistry, and the cohesion that Villanova has is always there, and it's really not common. I'm not trying to be like John Rothstein here, but last year, every time I would watch Villanova, it felt like I was watching a basketball clinic. Who has a 4-year point guard and a second-year big man who's coming back to school, who could have easily went to the NBA, and other fringe breakout guys like Justin Moore, like Cole Swider, like Jermaine Samuels, And you also have an elite coach in Jay Wright that has won multiple national championships. There are not many schools in college basketball that have those kind of combinations. There are also so many veterans and transfers and sit-outs. And I really think this Villanova team has some depth here to really compete with some of the great teams this season in college basketball. Now, in terms of my questions for this Villanova team, is there a star on this team that could be the best player on a championship-winning team? Who is the superstar? Because as good as Colin Gillespie is, and keep in mind, there's at the end of the show, I'm going to give you guys my all Big East awards and my predictions for all those. Colin Gillespie is going to be on there. He is one of the 5 best players in the Big East. I'm confident in that statement. But with that being said, I don't know if he has what it takes to be the best player on a team that wins a national championship like a lot of Villanova fans going into this season are expecting them to do so. Justin Moore, maybe, but who knows? I think Jeremiah Robinson Earl, maybe, but the way I kind of look at him right now, he's more of an elite role player. Who is the guy that they could trust late in games to score like Saddiq Bey? Last year, Gillespie averaged around 13, 14 a game. Jeremiah Robinson Earl around 10. Justin Moore around 11. So they're really going to see, okay, who could score the ball late? That's one thing I'm really going to look at for this Villanova team. He's going to be missed, Will Saddiq Bey. Even though Caleb Daniels is a guy that, albeit for Tulane, did average 17 points a game and can create shots. Jay Wright is very high on him. That's a guy that can help hit shots without Saddiq Bey. They do have the nucleus with talent and experience to be a top 5 team. If there are any Villanova fans that are listening to this show, I don't think Caleb Daniels is going to be like a Joe Cremo, if you remember him a couple of years ago. If you don't know who I'm talking about, Joe Cremo was actually a transfer from Albany who played for Villanova about, I would say, 2 seasons ago. And I remember during that offseason, he was super hyped up, and Villanova just had a very big role for him, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to produce in that role. I think the good thing and the different thing about Caleb Daniels here is that, one, even though it was at Tulane, the American Athletic Conference is a much higher level than the America East, and two, this is a guy that this Villanova team is going to be able to score without him. So he could take some time to kind of get used to the offense, to kind of get used to playing with his new teammates in the environment, and Villanova will be okay. I think for their first couple games, if Caleb takes a little bit of time to adjust and get used to everything, they'll be fine. Unfortunately, with Joe Cremo a couple years ago, they couldn't ask him to do that. They kind of relied on him to score a little bit more right away. And if you remember, that was one of the worst Villanova teams I've ever seen. Even though they were like a 4 or 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, that really just shows you how the expectations for this Villanova program have really changed over the last couple of years, which is super impressive by them. But I think Caleb Daniels is definitely a kid to watch for this Villanova team. They do have the nucleus with the talent and the experience, I think, to be a legitimate top 5 team. At this time last year, we were asking the same questions about Villanova. Bey was good as a freshman, but nothing special. Colin Gillespie was not great his second year as point guard, but was good when Phil Booth was at point guard towards the end of the season. But then you look at last year, Gillespie took a big jump and was one of the best point guards in the nation. This is a guy that could shoot from 3. He could shoot from mid-range. Villanova doesn't have a Jalen Brunson, but when you rank the best players in college basketball, I think both Colin Gillespie and Jeremiah Robinson Earl will be high enough on people's best player in the nation list where they could really, go on a run and win some games. I just don't know, come March Madness, who is going to be the guy that hits those shots. And I think as the season goes on, those are really the questions that are really are answered for us. Justin Moore is another kid I really like. He's going to have some more shot creation in a bigger role in the offense, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. He showed a decent amount offensively last season. This is a guy that averaged 11 points per game, and I really think that could improve for a kid like Justin Moore, who, keep in mind, is still super young, only a sophomore. Right now, I have Villanova at number 3. Another kid I want to see develop is Cole Swider. This is a guy that throughout his first 2 years at Villanova, he's shown flashes. I don't want to say he's been bad, but kind of similar to Justin Moore last year. Like, he just really hasn't gotten that big-time exposure yet. And I think this year, with the loss of Sadiq Bey, if anyone could really benefit, I think there's a chance that it may be Cole Swider. He only averaged 6 points a game last year, about 3 rebounds, about half an assist. But this kid has good size at 6'9" and could really shoot. And I've always thought he could be a perfect fit for Jay Wright's offense, really, since his high school days. So Cole Swider is a kid that I think is one to watch. And also Brian Antoine. If you remember, last year, this kid was a McDonald's All-American, and unfortunately, he wasn't really able to make his way onto the court. I think if he could play anywhere close to the hype Brian Antoine had coming into last season. We know that he's been struggling with injuries as well. Hopefully he could stay healthy. Brian Antoine is going to be a kid to watch for Villanova as well. Right now, when you look at Villanova, I have their starting 5 as Colin Gillespie at the 1, Justin Moore at the 2, Cole Swider at the 3, Jermaine Samuels at the 4, and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl at the 5. When you look at Villanova's bench, because I think that starting 5 is perfect. That's obviously going to be one of the better starting 5s in all of college basketball. I think Brandon Slater showed signs last year and could really defend, but nothing else. So I think he should play some minutes. He's going to be in the rotation. I think the question is who starts between Swider, Antoine, or Daniels. I think, Gillespie and Moore, they played in the backcourt last year. They basically have those 2 spots locked up. I'm curious to see between those guys. Swider, a kid that could really shoot. I think they'll play him if they really want to play a little bit of a bigger, lengthier lineup. They could even play a smaller lineup with him at the 4. Caleb Daniels, same thing said about him. And even though Brian Antoine is a little bit shorter than those guys, he's 6'5", he could still really play. He's super athletic, assuming he's healthy. I'm really looking forward to see what Jay Wright does in his rotation with those guys. And I think Swider is due for a breakout and is a really good modern-day shooter in Jay Wright's system. That's really why I'm really looking forward to seeing what he could do this season. Demir Cosby-Roundtree is another guy in the mix for Villanova. He's a guy that also was on that national championship team as a freshman, super experienced. Didn't play much last year, but he's always a good big body to have come off the bench, matchup dependent big man. And I don't know if Villanova is going to play 8 to 9 guys, but I like benches, where you could plug and play what you need based on what you need that day, So if you're facing a team that is a very good rebounding team and you need size, you're going to put Demir in. If you need shooting, you're going to put Cole Swider in. And whoever doesn't start out of those 3, Daniels, Antoine, and Swider, I think those are going to be the guys that for this Villanova team are really going to have to carry the offensive prowess coming off the bench. Eric Dixon also redshirted last year. He is a former top 75 recruit. I'm curious to see if he's going to be able to get on the floor at all this season, but he's really impressive. He could play. I think Villanova's bench is good compared to other Big East benches, but they're just significantly worse than their starters, and that's, I guess, inappropriate for a bench. And I think when you look at Villanova right now, as we wrap up with their team preview, they're my number 3 team in the country right now, behind Gonzaga and Baylor. Villanova is very deep. They're very talented and experienced. And Colin Gillespie, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Justin Moore, Jay Wright, that's a really good core. And I feel confident that come March, they'll be in a favorable position to earn a number 1 seed.